Okay, Lieutenant Colonel Francis E. Babe Hawke. We're now going to be discussing the basic training period. He's joined by his lovely wife, Avenal. Big supporter of his all through his life and our lives. So Dad, you're in ROTC. The plan is to graduate, get your commissions, and then do whatever Uncle Sam tells you to do. What happened to change that? Take us through how that changed.
Well, after our junior year, they decided that rather than spending another year to get us commissioned, they would put us in on active duty and put us through OCS, which would only take 3 months, and commission us, and away we would go. So that's when we went back to Fort MacArthur, California, and got inducted on June 7th, and then on the 10th we took a train to Fort Riley, Kansas, and that's where we started our basic training on horses, and went completely through it, shooting the pistol off the horse and the rifle, of course, the old 30-06. Went through the 80mm mortar and 50 caliber machine gun courses at Fort Riley, Kansas. So at the end of our basic training then, we were able to apply for, instead of waiting for OCS, we were able to apply for flight training. And those of us wanted to go to the Air Corps, they allowed us to, and the rest of them who couldn't pass the physical for flight physical then went to other OCSs down at Fort Benning, Georgia, and back east. But there were about 20 of us that went to navigation pre-flight in California. And then from there we went to Hondo, Texas to actually start flying and becoming navigators, which we completed in September of '44. Yeah.
Now, let's go back to Fort Riley. You went everywhere by train?
By train from Fort MacArthur to Fort Riley.
And this was obviously a change in plans personally for you. That meant you weren't going to get your college degree until the earliest after the war was over. Was that an issue for you? I mean, was that just you were just doing what you're told? And
no, it was very exciting because we wanted to go in the service and be a part of it. We were it gave us an opportunity to do something.
Okay. Now, Fort Riley, Kansas. Let's talk about that. First of all, talk about the equipment. What kind of saddle did you have on the horse?
We had the old saddle that you see in the movies all the time. They call it a McClellan saddle.
Was it very comfortable?
To me, it was very comfortable. To a lot of guys, it wasn't, but I found it very comfortable.
And was it a double bit on the horse?
Yeah, we had double bits and 4 reins.
And so you were taught to neck rein with one hand, obviously.
Yes,
Because you had to have the other hand free for shooting and other things.
Drawing pistol and charge.
Right. Now, you basically took care of the horse, everything but shoeing it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but we had to clean it, and also we had to take care of the saddle and the bridle, pommel rolls, and cantle rolls.
Now these were remounts also?
Yes, very much so. They'd come from Wyoming and Montana. They were right off the range, so they were not very well trained when we got them.
And with the increase, obviously, in manpower, were they bringing horses in all the time?
Oh yeah.
To be trained now. So were they also being trained on site at Fort Riley? Were they trained? Okay, so you could see that happen. There were people, wranglers, who specialized in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would not have been a pleasant job.
Yeah. See, there were close to 100,000 people of us at Fort Riley. We were down at Republican Flats, which was a part of Fort Riley, and that's where the basic training went on.
Now you were being thrown in with kids who were just being enlisted.
Exactly. In fact, they were kids that had never seen a horse and were afraid of them, never fired a gun in their life, and of course we had. So we were made made corporals and sergeants. I was made a sergeant. Didn't get paid or anything. Wasn't called that, but I had a platoon, and acted actually as a platoon sergeant.
Mhm. And so how big was the platoon?
30 men.
So you had 30 men under you
Yeah.
at the age of 19?
20.
20? Okay. And of these 30 men, a lot of them were from back east or from places?
Mostly from the south.
Uh-huh.
Had never maybe even seen a horse, but they were afraid of them, which was amazing to me. But because I don't remember ever being afraid of a horse, even when I first started riding. But the horses knew it.
Of course. Yeah.
They'd take advantage of it, but it was we would when we first started riding through the pistol range mounted. Why, they were silhouette targets on our right. We'd just walk through and fire at the targets. But the horses were so new that they would jump at the first crack of the .45 pistol. And the rider, not being used to that, would bring his hand around and maybe fire up another round right through the horse's neck.
Kill a horse?
Kill a horse. And the sergeant would come up and get the person's name and the number of the horse, and that's what he would be charged, was what they paid for that horse.
Really? So they'd dock it from his pay?
Yes.
How much would they dock?
They'd $1 a month.
It's $1 a month? For how long?
For how long it took to pay for the horse.
Well, how much would the horse cost?
Well, they were different prices, anywhere from $15 to $30.
Really? Oh, wow. And so would they basically be these new guys? First of all, the units were segregated, right? These were all white kids?
All white.
Yeah. So these kids would just be basically brought in and thrown on a horse? Well, how much?
Exactly right. They couldn't even sign their name to the payroll. That's how
Uneducated they were?
uneducated they were.
Right. And but would be given much basic training. Just here's the horse, get on it.
Yeah, they took the training just like we did. Of course, we had trained on horses, and that's the reason they made us sergeants and corporals.
So there was a lot of teaching for you.
Pardon?
So there was a lot of teaching required.
Yes.
To teach these kids to ride and try to feel as comfortable as possible.
Right.
They must have been terrified.
They were terrified. They just try to put the bit in the horse's mouth, and the horse would throw its head, of course, and
Yeah.
they'd drop the bit and the bridle and run away.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. But so you're taught to basically shoot a .45 from the top of a horse.
Yes.